2021 Hyundai Elantra review. All right, let's get started with the exterior. So 2021 got fully redesigned here. Looking pretty sharp if I don't say so myself. More importantly, as I've been testing this vehicle for the last couple of days, people have truly been taking notice to the little Elantra here. You know, this little design language that Hyundai likes to claim is exotic. It seems to be working out. And of course, this optional red paint job does help with that, this metallic red. It's a sharp looking color for a sharp looking ride. Enough of that, you have eyes. You can see for yourself whether you like this vehicle or not. Talk about more of the exterior dimensional changes that they've done. They have extended the overall length of this car by 2.2 inches, and that translates into a wheelbase that is now 0.8 inches larger. This car sits about 0.8 inches lower as well, and the overall car's width has increased by about 1 inch. So that's kind of the exterior dimensional changes that they made. Okay, so the Elantra, you have kind of three powertrain options. So you have the 2-liter 4-cylinder naturally aspirated motor like you see here, producing 147 horsepower and about 132 pound-feet of torque. There is the optional N-line, which is a 1.6-liter turbo producing 201 horsepower and about 195 pound-feet of torque. And then there's the hybrid option, which I haven't tested either the N-line or the hybrid version of this vehicle, but I did test out the 2020 Sonata hybrid. So I'll leave a link down to that review as well as the 2021 Santa Fe that I tried out. But this 2-liter 4-cylinder is going to be the engine that most people are going to be looking into because this is the model that's available with the majority of trim levels. Surprisingly, the N-line is a little bit cheaper than this car, and you get some more horsepower, but the thing is I haven't tested that model yet, and the other thing is I don't know how that vehicle is going to ride with the 18-inch wheels. So I would be interested in trying that car out, but let's go ahead, kind of peg it here. We are in the normal mode. I don't think most people are going to have a complaint with this. You know, MPGs with these naturally aspirated motors and the CVT that Hyundai has developed here, you're going to be getting amazing real world fuel economy. Even with me driving in pure annihilation mode, okay, I have been getting like 25 mpgs, and that's with me stomping it full throttle everywhere in every corner. So that's the worst case scenario, and I've heard people get all the way up to like 40 mpg in city driving it more mellow. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of the highlight that you're going to be getting with this CVT transmission. Now, most people scoff and they loathe CVTs, but that's because their memory and their perception of CVTs are from 20-30 years ago. Yeah, of course, back then they sucked, but this is infinitely better than the CVTs of past. I'm gonna merge onto this little highway here, but yeah, this CVT does perform better than most even automatics that I've tested as of recently, so very impressed there. So we merge on here, test out some more of that power. So yeah, the high speed stability of this, so good, okay? And merging onto the highway is totally fine. It's just when you're already up to highway speeds and you want a little bit more, that's when you kind of see the little deficiency of its, you know, puny 147 horsepower. But for the most part, 90% of driving, this powertrain is going to be more than enough. I like the way Hyundai tuned this engine and powertrain. So don't let the horsepower numbers fool you here. The way it's tuned, the power feels plentiful, especially in the city, and especially if you drive it in the smart mode, which is my most favorite mode to drive it in. And if you turn off the traction and the stability control, the engine response will become a little bit more immediate still, so that's great. Sport mode is kind of unnecessary, especially when the smart mode does such a great job. Yeah, driving out here on the highway at high speeds, this vehicle has always been very quiet. This is something I've said about the 2020 Elantra as well. I was very impressed with the overall refinement of this car. both with the wind noise and the tire noise. Speaking of tire noise, this vehicle, because it's the limited, you got the 17-inch wheels with 225 wide tires in all four corners. These are the Kumo Majesty Solus tires. Very good tires, actually. I'm very impressed with them. They continue to be quiet, but also giving you enough grip. And also, these are not very expensive tires to replace. But the kind of main changes that they made here is actually with the all-new K3 third generation platform here. So the handling is probably the biggest change that I've noticed with the new Elantra. That's what I'm most impressed with here. This feels so neutral now. The old Elantra was great. You can go watch my old review on that. I love the way that car drove, and like I already mentioned, the refinement and the comfort was excellent, but this takes it to another level, as it should, right? So with the K3 platform for the third generation, they have lowered the center of gravity. The body roll has been reduced because of that. The front crash safety has been improved. The overall length and the wheelbase of this vehicle has increased, so that means the stability out on the highway has increased as well. And these are the small, subtle changes that I've noticed to be an improvement over the 2020 Elantra. So all great welcome changes here. The mounting of the suspension has also changed, so that also aids in the handling abilities. The transmission has been moved forward a little bit, so that somehow improved the steering response of this car. And yes, this is actually all true. This is not just marketing gimmicks or nonsense. This is really things that I've noticed with this 2021 Elantra. You still got a McPherson front suspension in the front, and you also have a torsion beam rear suspension. So some people will see that as a detriment, but honestly, this car handles, and the ride quality is also great. Ride quality seems very similar to the 2020 Elantra. Not a huge change there. But then again, it doesn't have to be a huge change because the old car already rode well and it was quiet enough already. And there's no use of double pane glass. It's a compact vehicle, so don't expect something like that. But it doesn't need that either because it is very quiet, like I already mentioned. Over the smaller bumps, the larger bumps, this car remains planted. So the torsion beam is definitely not something that I'm going to knock this vehicle for, but I will say if you step up to the N-Line or the hybrid trim levels, you will be getting a multi-link rear suspension. So I just wanted to mention that to you. I'll mention the hybrid model briefly here. Honestly, I don't think you're going to need the hybrid. You will be getting like 50 mpg on average in both the city and the highway. So if you drive a lot, the blue trim or the base trim hybrid might be something to look into, but I really don't think it's necessary because, like I mentioned, this car, some owners have even got up all the way up to like 40 mpgs in the city. So with some mellow driving, you can achieve truly great mpg figures with this car. And again, that's why I really like this engine and transmission combination. It's a relatively smooth four-cylinder as well. You know, when you kind of step on it, when you get up there in RPMs, obviously the engine becomes a lot louder, but this is way more refined than something like the Toyota Corolla, I'll say that much. But yeah, for sure the biggest and the best change that they made is definitely with the handling dynamics of this car. It's just so planted and neutral feeling. And they're right, there's hardly any body roll with this. And the last thing I'll talk about before I transition over into the interior segment and we talk about these features is the brakes. So the brakes, I like them because it's a more progressive brake pedal, okay? You have to kind of get in on them a little bit. It feels very natural. Everything about this car feels natural to drive. And that's one of the things I've always praised Hyundai Kia cars for, is there's nothing weird about driving these cars. Everything feels natural and just feels appropriate. And there's genuinely this sense of nimbleness to it. You know, this is not a sports sedan or a sports car, but it's got a nice, confidence-inspiring feel at higher speeds, lower speeds, handling, all of these things, right? So with that established, let's go ahead and let's transition over into the interior segment now. All right, talking about the interior. So One of the things that Hyundai continues to do here is provide you with a very ergonomic interior space. Everything just falls in your hand nicely, okay? Everything is easy to access, like your climate control. You have your own separated climate control settings, your temperature, your fan speed, all that stuff. I'm so happy that they separated that from the screen. But some of the cons that I've noticed with this interior, obviously this is not as nice to sit in as something like the Mazda 3. Again, it doesn't cost as much. But keep in mind, this is a compact car and this far exceeds any expectations that a compact car has. But I will mention, the hard touch plastics. I mean, the typical stuff that a lot of these journalists like to complain about. But thing is though, I mean, dude, come on, this is a more affordable vehicle, so they have to compromise in certain areas here. I don't really mind that so much, but I will say the solidity of this cabin space can't quite be compared to something like the Corollas or the Honda products, okay? Those cars also might not use the best components in their interiors, a lot more plastics, but none of these companies are really going to match that Toyota Honda level of build quality in the interior, I should say that. But for the most part though, I don't think most people are gonna have to complain about this. It's still solid enough, okay, so I don't really mind it, but Hyundai gives you all the pragmatic features that you need as standard, and that's where this company really shines compared to its rivals. You have just about every safety feature that you need as standard, like the important ones such as blind spot monitoring, you got the lane keep assist, you got the rear cross traffic, and a bunch of other little features that you actually need. Oh yeah, front collision assist, all those things, right? Really, with the limited trim, you get a couple of things, 4 things in particular, okay? You get the leather seats, and also you get 3 safety features that you cannot get with the SE or the SEL, even if you option it up. And that's 2 little highway safety features that just makes it easy, like the smart cruise control, highway assist, all these things. And then there's an advanced backup camera sensor system where it will detect pedestrians, bicycles, things like that, other objects, and it'll kind of beep at you and warn you. So that's another little extra feature that the limited trims get, but again, not really necessary. I will make a buyer's guide video here soon talking about the best trim levels to get, the advantages and disadvantages of certain trims, so stay tuned for that. But for most intents and purposes, I would recommend the SEL trim with like the convenience package or something like that. But let's continue here. A couple of the other features that you get are heated seats, of course, which again, you can option that with the SEL. You also have the optional kind of one-piece LCD screens here. So you got the 10.25-inch infotainment plus the 10.25-inch gauge cluster screen. And it's nice. I definitely like the look of it, but most importantly, I like how they kept it simple with the infotainment. This is the more traditional infotainment that we're used to with Kia Hyundai that I've always praised them for. They kind of updated the looks of it a little bit here and the clarity and the screen quality of it. So it's more in line with something like the Mazda screen quality. The base screen size that you're going to be getting is the 8-inch screen, and even that comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So again, great features there. The gauge cluster, I'm sure it's just a normal gauge cluster that you would get with like an SE model. But here you got the optional ones, and I do like these because the tach and the speedometer have like these lines going through it. It just has a nice, elegant touch to it. So again, they do a phenomenal job with all the tech in their vehicles, and they offer you, again, all the pragmatic features that most people want at an affordable price. Again, that's one of the main reasons to look into a Hyundai Kia product. Okay, you got some steering wheel buttons here to change the track selection, volume controls. Again, very intuitive, easy to use stuff there. Again, another little drawback I've noticed is the window switches. Not the window switches, but it's got one-touch auto up and down windows for just the driver's side window here, not for the other 3 windows, which is kind of annoying. I wish they would give you that. Another main option that this car has is the 8-speaker Bose, and it's a nice little system. It's not like the best in the world or anything like that, but it's a good upgrade over the base audio system. So you can actually get this with the SEL trim if you go for like the premium package. So something to keep in mind there. And another thing, I would like the electronic parking brake to come on as soon as you put the vehicle in the park. That would be a nice feature to add, but small little gripes there. The seat quality is great. I do like Hyundai's little leather quality here. It feels nice and durable while still being comfortable, so it should be easy to clean and it should last you a long time. So you have electric driver's side seats here, but you got manual seats for the passenger side, which is totally fine. 2 big cup holders. You got wireless charging here. And in about 30 minutes, 25-30 minutes of driving, I noticed I got about 10% extra juice in my Samsung Note 10 Plus, so something to keep in mind there. I'm just glad I have a place to store my phone. Center armrest space is decent, as well as the glove box. You also have a sunroof with this model. And let's go ahead and let's transition over into the rear seats now. I certainly have plenty of space. I'm 5'11", so I can definitely sit behind myself. Headroom is excellent, so I don't think most people should have a complaint sitting back there. This is one of the best-in-class rear legroom vehicles, so something to keep in mind. Again, I haven't tried the 2022 Civic yet. The current Civic is massive, but this is really a nice rival to that. This car feels nice and open. I believe EPA rates this car at as a mid-size vehicle. I'm sure they've done that with the Civic as well, but yeah, very good-sized vehicle here. I don't think people should have issues with space. And that brings me into the trunk. So again, the trunk, very massive still. You can also fold down the seats 60/40. This is one of the reasons why I'm glad Hyundai continues to invest in sedans like this, and they continue to do a great job with it, because this has so much more character. It looks cool from the outside. It's plenty practical, as you just saw with the trunk. Great opening. You also have a spare tire back there. And when you fold down the seats, man, this is more than enough space for most people. You have something that drives a lot better than an SUV does. Okay, I drove the Kona as well. This is a great improvement over something like the Kona. And as we just saw, it's a phenomenal upgrade from the 2020 Elantra. Subtle things that they did, but it really added up to be a nice driving experience. So before we get to the conclusions, let me go ahead and let's talk about some of the competitors, okay? Some of the pros and cons between the two. Like I mentioned, I haven't driven the latest Civic, but compared to the current generation Civic, this is close in terms of the handling. I think the Civic edges it out a little bit, but as far as the refinement goes, this is so much quieter that I have to choose this as a daily driver. This is really nice. Even on the highway speeds, this is much quieter than something like a Civic. The Corolla is pretty noisy. The engine is noisy in the Corolla as well. So I would give points to the Elantra there as well. But the Mazda 3 is another elegant vehicle. Good powertrain options. I like how that car feels. But the solidity definitely goes to Toyota and Honda. The way they kind of piece everything together just feels a little bit better in those cars. So something I noticed there. But again, these Hyundais, they typically undercut the competition, and they just give you kind of everything that most people want. So that's why I'm like, if you're confused in this segment and you don't know where to start, Hyundais are pretty much one of the best places where you can start. It's a very nice neutral balance. And then after you try a Hyundai, then go ahead and then try out some of the other brands. I think you'd be really impressed with what Hyundai has to offer you as a package. So it's a great little vehicle to lease, and that's kind of the best thing to do with a limited trim. Lease it, because otherwise if you're financing, I think you can save about a G or two if you go with an SEL trim with the convenience package or even the premium package, and you can get a lot of the features that this car has to offer. Now let's go on to the conclusions. I pretty much summed it up right there. It's a great overall package. It's certainly a car that Hyundai should be proud of, and I'm happy that they continue to improve their sedans. I was impressed with the Sonata Hybrid as well. I've always said that these cars are quiet and comfortable and really lower your blood pressure. So if you're looking for a nice cruiser, but with a good handling edge to it as well, then you're really going to appreciate this. I haven't tried the N-Line yet, but this is a good platform for more sporty variants of the Elantra. They seem to be coming out with a Elantra N as well, like a pure N model similar to the Veloster N. And I'm really looking forward to that, because proper kind of performance with a limited slip differential in the front, hopefully, all those little things along with the refinement that's already built into this car should be nice, especially compared to like the Veloster, you know, which is not as refined as the Elantras. This is just a better built vehicle as a whole. So yeah, I'm excited for the future of the Elantra and some of these other vehicles that I've tried with Hyundai. So definitely give it a chance, and I think you should definitely put it on your short list. So thank you so much for watching this review. Stay tuned for my buyer's guide. Take care and goodbye.